Sarah Holbrooke. I'm the Executive Director of the Pinhead Institute in Telluride, Colorado, and the lucky person who gets to interview the Mayor of Telluride, Sean Murphy.
Hi, Sarah.
How
Good
are
to be
you?
with you?
It feels like we were just here.
I know,
Yeah.
like maybe 2 weeks ago,
I know,
perhaps.
exactly. Now
Yeah.
we're back again. So there was a council meeting recently.
Yes, you know, in off-season, we don't do huge heavy lifting.
You try to be very, yeah, exactly. Nothing big.
So
yeah.
what we did
what
was
were the little things?
actually one thing that is significant that we will, hopefully it's coming back for a second reading. We did adopt an ordinance on first reading. Now we have a second reading to come. That'll be June 4th when
June
the second
4th.
reading occurs. And this is a demolition ordinance. So we have
I can see Miley Cyrus on the wrecking ball right now. No, that's not what we're talking about.
That's an interesting. Okay, we'll stay away from that. We
Yeah.
have this effective demolition sort of ordinance that we've teed up, and what it will do is, if you're going to tear down more than 50% of your exterior, then that's deemed a full demolition of your house, and then you have to go to HARC in order to get approval for that, and for what you do again. So
Yeah.
we've had so-called renovations, apparently about one a year, according to James Van Hooser, our planner too, who presented the
He's a
information.
great singer in karaoke as well.
He is.
Yes,
you're
Thursday
right.
nights at the Liberty.
He's multi-talented.
Yes, exactly. But anyhow, James.
And he's a smart.
He's a smart
planner.
housing planner.
So P&Z, Planning and Zoning Commission, has been looking at this as part of the tool chest that they're sort of rummaging through to figure out what else could we do to A, support efforts to have affordable housing mitigation, i.e. more affordable units, and B, what other possibilities do we have to maybe increase some housing fees? So what they've gone and proposed to us, which we accepted at the last council meeting, was a new ordinance that says if you demolish more than 50% of your exterior, you haven't paid mitigation fees for affordable housing for your residents, which before 2009 there weren't any.
Right.
Then you would be subject to not only HARC scrutiny over your project, because neighbors have complained about once a year about one or two of these projects going on, but you also will then trip into and trigger affordable housing mitigation fees for your renovation.
Which were voted to be increased last year.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
February of 2018, yes, is when we adjusted the fees upward.
Sure.
So,
it feels like yesterday.
But in addition, sort of outside of that meeting, the day before that meeting, we had an intergovernmental meeting where the town of Mountain Village, the town of Telluride, and San Miguel County elected officials got together at the fire station.
Yay.
And we heard from, actually, this gentleman who is our regional leader for the census. So, of course, next year, 2020, is the census. Apparently, April 1st is Census Day.
Okay.
They are hiring people right now, they told us. And one thing I did not realize is that if you just have a P.O. box without physical mail, home delivery mail, you don't get a questionnaire in the mail. So they are going to be canvassing. So
none of the people in Telluride get that.
Isn't that shocking?
That is.
And think about others in San Miguel County as well. So naturally, the county and the towns are concerned about this.
Yeah.
And the census folks, this is just sort of a long-term lead-in to the fact that they hire canvassers. And so there will be people walking around with clipboards in Telluride in the beginning of 2020.
Give them respect and your answers.
And talk to them before the ski resort closes, because if we have a situation where we don't have people in town, they're going to undercount.
Yeah.
And what does that mean, you might ask?
What does that mean, Sean? Tell
It
us.
means, on average, that your community, and really the federal government doesn't fund the town, but they do fund the county substantially, you get approximately $1,250 less per person if you're not counted. So if we do get, as many people as possible counted.
So the only mechanism right now is a human being finding you at your place of residence
or calling you on your cell phone, but do they have all of our cell numbers? I don't think so. So anyway, that was kind of a shock.
Yes.
So obviously we've been in this position before.
Can we opt in? Can we email the census
and say? You can go onto their website and complete
and fill out
a form that way, and then they'll register you.
So maybe we'll do some public information campaigns in early 2020 telling people how to go and register themselves if they don't see the census person at their door.
And one point that was made, obviously there's some controversy surrounding the census because there will be a question this year or next year about citizenship. And so we have a number of people who might be reluctant to answer that question and therefore might not want to complete the entire form. That's a bad thing. And so the nice thing about these census workers is they are not allowed to share this data with any other federal agency, period, end of story, and it stays locked down in their files for 72 years.
Great.
So there's no other law enforcement agency, there's no other federal government agency that's allowed to poke around.
There's no
in any
ICE
of the
baby
Nope.
who's going to come knocking on your door if you answer that.
Do not hesitate to complete the form if that's a concern.
That's
that
yet another
there will be
public
no data
information
sharing.
campaign we should
And
get out there.
a census worker who breaches that or discloses something in violation of the rule is subject to a 5-year prison sentence and $250,000 fine.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
serious.
I think that
Interesting.
very few of them would ever consider doing that.
Yeah.
So anyway, this was sort of a broader conversation where there's a local, there will be a local count committee, and Commissioner Cooper, Hillary Cooper, I think will be the leader for that for our county and region. But anyway, there's just more to that stuff than I
Yeah.
ever considered.
Yeah, that's
So-
interesting. The things you find out when you're mayor and when you're interviewing the mayor and when you're watching the
Also-
interview of the mayor.
At that meeting, we had some of our town staff, as well as Amy Levick, who's the executive director for the Trust for Community Housing. Those two teamed up, Melanie Wasserman from the town staff and Amy, and gave a presentation about a program that they've been studying different programs. There's one in Summit County and there's one out in Mammoth, California, in Truckee actually, that create incentives for owners to long-term rent instead of short-term rent.
Ah, okay.
And so there's no agency in our community that's doing that yet. There is some conversation around should one of the governments do it, or would it be better done by Amy's organization, for example, the Trust for Community Housing. The governmental administration of it, the problem there is lawful presence, because if the government does it, we have to make sure you're you're lawfully present in the United States.
Right.
And if
which-
another third-party
yeah.
agency, non-governmental, does it, that's not a question
And what's
they have
this
to
it that
ask.
they would be doing? Helping homeowners rent
would-
their houses
would
long-term
basically-
to residents?
In the Summit County model, they've paid homeowners about $1,000, and then they also provide them with free property management services.
Oh, nice.
So, which aren't as intensive when it's a long-term rental anyway. So the model there has, I think, polled about 200 or 300 homes in that way.
Wow.
Melanie Wasserman was just saying actually at this intergovernmental meeting that since she discussed this at our council meeting 2 weeks ago, she's had 3 owners just call her out of the blue
Wow.
and say, hey, when this gets up and running,
Yeah.
whoever's doing it, connect us because we would love to do that.
Oh, that's
So,
great. And there are parts of Telluride, like where I live, and I live full-time in the house that I own, but if I were to try to rent it, I could only rent it 3 times a year.
Right,
Because
and
of
no more
where
than
I'm
29
living.
days,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So I suppose long-term would work for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think technically you can long-term rent only 3 times too, 3 times as well per year.
Per
like
year, yeah,
over
but if
30
it's,
days.
right, but I'm saying
So-
long term would be a year or 2 or 3 or something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, it would be nice for the homeowners to have that support
Yeah.
if they decided to want to do that rather than
So
trying to
it's
Airbnb it or whatever.
something else that we're sort of trying to consider and at least look to other communities and figuring out what's working. We're not going to get hundreds and hundreds probably in our smaller communities. Summit County is obviously a lot larger, but if we got 10 or 20,
That's 10 or
that would
20
be
more
good.
families that have housing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that don't have to
So-
worry about moving out.
that's
Yeah.
good. And then
that's great.
also at the intergovernmental meeting, we sort of circled back, since all the electeds from the 3 governments were in the same room, about the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, yes.
Because we really need to start a conversation similar to what we did to form SMART. And the focus of that conversation is, should we create a sewer district? Should we be sitting down with our neighboring communities, some of whom may or may not want this, but we ought to just start talking about it, all the electeds from all of these communities, as well as stakeholders like the ski company, stakeholders like El Tesoro, Hillside neighbors, Lawson Hill neighbors. And so if we can bring all these people together, it sounds like a large group, but if you have a 25-person working group, much like we did with SMART, you can actually start to form consensus around which direction to go in. Because if we do nothing, it'll continue to be 2/3 the responsibility of the town of Telluride for the improvements, and 1/3 the responsibility of the town of Mountain Village, and then those other communities will pay higher rates. So if we all get together and come up with maybe a different funding mechanism, then there might be some more equity in terms of what we all pay for the wastewater service, as well as a broader buy-in. I mean, we're all in the same boat at the end of that water cycle too.
Right,
So
exactly. And
we
the work
really-
needs to be done, right? What's
It
the
has to be
timeline we're
done.
looking at?
So the state imposed some new regulations on us in 2017, and the federal government will come up with we're expecting new nutrient standards to be imposed in 2027.
Wastewater and nutrient, that just sounds like a recipe for a Soylent Green Part 2 or something.
Well,
But
I mean,
anyhow, continue.
The real, it's like zinc and
Okay.
those things. And so we currently closely monitor those things anyway, but the state actually toughened the regulations about zinc. in 2017. So we're already dealing with that. That's causing us to spend about we're going to go to the voters this November and ask for a $6.8 million bond. The town itself will be contributing about $2 million as well to that, and the Mountain Village, I think, will come to the table with about $4 million.
And that's
So
to update
that's
the existing
2 to 5 year
facility,
update.
the fix kind of
The
for what's
fix.
happening now.
The
And
interim
then,
solution,
and then
yes.
further down the line, in terms of timing, that has to be completely rehauled or built again, or a bigger facility to be built?
We do need, actually, this is part of the society turn conversation as well, and we can talk about that. But we will need additional land, about 1.5 acres, and the Genesee Properties folks, the SMBC people, the Blue family, have graciously offered to give us that at no cost.
Wow.
So we will have the footprint on which to reconstruct, in effect, the whole wastewater treatment plant. But
And that's not this 2, 4, 6 million fix. This is a
that's
much
something
larger
that's
number.
much larger that we
and
really,
that's further down the
yeah,
road.
we had consultants in 2015 and 2016 who actually basically, whiteboarded the whole thing. What would you do if you were starting again? What would you do if you were keeping this location and rehabbing it in some way? And how do you get to these required standards? And so the numbers that started to emerge from that conversation were like $50 million, $60 million. And so the town was like, okay, let's hire like a third-party engineering consultant service, and let's let them look at this and value engineer this and see if we could bring the price down.
Yeah.
It went up.
Oh, no.
So we're like,
What is our total town budget every year annually?
our total
for
town
everything?
budget is about $30 million. Yeah. So this thing is
Yeah, huge.
2 times maybe that,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, which is another reason why we all need a partner to get this to happen together. So anyway, the idea is
I don't want
instead
to go
of
back to pits in the sidewalk or
instead of
anything.
just letting our local public works folks in the Telluride town silo and the public works folks up in the Mountain Village silos,
Right.
instead of just having them start to talking about this year after year, we all need to start getting together, all the elected officials, and starting the conversation about, okay, what do we want at the end of this, 15-year period, and now's the time to start looking ahead on that.
Yeah, sure.
Similar to that, actually, the Gondola Subcommittee, so the TMVOA folks in the town of Mountain Village, the operator and the owner, respectively, of the gondola, they have had a committee that's been in place since 2015 to study what options exist for improving the gondola or replacing the gondola. What happens after their 2020? 2027 is going to be a really big year here because standards that cause wastewater treatment plant to be completely renewed, as well as the gondola funding mechanism goes away because the contract for the Mountain Village Owners Association to pay the operating and capital expenses for the gondola expires December 31st, 2027. So we're going to have some serious price tags and some serious long-term capital planning to do. And so the idea there again is that conversation has been conducted through a subcommittee, a couple of members of the Telluride Town Council, a couple of members of the Mountain Village Council, and a couple of the other stakeholders with the Mountain Village Owners Association. And the county's been there too, one county commissioner. So now that conversation really, they're entering another phase of planning right now when they want to open it up to all 17 elected officials.
Oh, wow.
Plus other stakeholders as well, like the ski company and like any other larger employers in the community. So we should stay tuned for your electeds to be more active and working together at the same table more often.
Figuring out a plan for the gondola.
Yeah, figuring out a plan for the gondola, figuring out a plan for the wastewater treatment.
Yeah, sure.
And hopefully getting all of us counted in the census too.
Yeah, right,
So,
exactly. Lots of big things
but-
coming up.
Yeah, sales and real estate transfer tax update for you through April. We actually got the new numbers in. We are up 21% for sales tax
Woo!
year over year. So
Yeah.
for the first 4 months of the year, we're 21% ahead.
Wow.
For real estate transfer tax, we are 18% ahead of where we were for the first 4 months of 2018.
And that includes the big input from the Ajax
Exactly.
property.
So
So who knows what next month will bring.
precisely. So we, at this point, revenues are looking good, and we're not worrying about.
What are you going to spend that money on, Sean?
Well, we're about to spend $1.6 million on the spur overlay,
right,
which is going to
exactly.
start in June.
Okay.
This is weather dependent, but the contractor actually will do it at night, and it'll take 1 week.
Wow, that's
so
fast.
we're trying to stay away from bluegrass, either the week before or the week after.
I'm
weather
out of town the
permitting.
week after, so why don't you do it then? I have to go to the Smithsonian Affiliates Conference, so
Oh.
you could do it then.
Wow.
I know, isn't that fun? I like to call
That's
it the
because of
Nerd Olympics.
Pinhead, or-
Well, yes, because of Pinhead. Pinhead is a proud Smithsonian affiliate, and they have a meeting about once a year with all the other Smithsonian affiliates,
How many
which is
are
great.
there?
Like
Hundreds and
200
hundreds?
something,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's
Right.
still very elite, but it's a great group of people. Mostly museums, brick and mortar, now more and more program-based, like we are.
Yeah, I was going to say how many organizations organizations like Pinhead would there be in that 200?
Well, there's nothing like Pinhead. But for example, when I was there 2 or 3 years ago, we met the wonderful people from the Mystic Seaport Museum in Mystic, Connecticut.
Yes.
And we became friendly, and we had a kid who wanted to study boat architectural engineering. And that's very STEMmy, but very unusual. So we got in touch with our wonderful people at Mystic. And they said, yes, we can take this wonderful young man who's now at Notre Dame. And this year we're sending a kid from Montrose to do the same internship. Sorry, I'm diverting our conversation.
No,
but anyhow,
that's okay.
so I'm going
because there's not much going on town government-wise, and I think we pretty much covered it. So let's talk about the fun stuff.
Oh my goodness, no, it is. It's very fun. Yeah, so I'll go and I'll meet my colleagues who run nonprofits and museums and programs and things like that. It'll be a great time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of June, actually, the County Commission, the County Planning Commission, has their third meeting about the Society Turn parcel on June 12th.
Oh, okay.
So I think around 9:30 in the morning.
Okay, and that's the parcel that maybe will be turned over to a med center, right?
Yes.
And then also
the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, exactly, and commercial.
Some other commercial. So they, the owner of that property, has done a study about utilization, what the commercial uses might be, what the other uses would be, and then they came out, actually the meeting.
Have we seen the answers to that study yet? I'd love to know
actually,
what they're
yes,
thinking
they
about
presented it at the May 8th Planning Commission meeting. And so what they did was they calculated the mitigation rate that the county requires in terms of this amount of commercial equals this amount of affordable housing. They came up with a proposal or a worksheet that they showed that should be in the packet, so it should be online at the county's Planning Commission tab. That packet, that worksheet showed that they had the need to create 78 units of affordable housing for the project.
Wow.
So
That's
it is a 20-acre
units.
parcel. I'm not sure I can't remember off the top of my head. It's approximately, well, I won't even throw out, but it's about 50-50 in terms of the space that they want to devote to hotel versus commercial as well. They'd like to have a 150-room hotel as part of the project. And so this was, and just to back up for a second, it's not like they're getting specific approval to build anything specific yet.
Right.
This is to amend the master plan that the county has in place that governs all lands within the county. And so they needed an amendment to the master plan in order to do this type of commercial.
Even though this is private land, it's private land owned within the county.
Right.
And so then they would deed or lease some of it to the med center.
This is basically changing the zoning to allow for them to come back and go through a planned unit development, a PUD process, and then your county commission, your county planning commission would be reviewing that PUD application sometime in the future. But this is basically just an approval of the overall plan for the possible development. But the med center would be the first thing to go. The town.
The first thing to be built.
Yes.
Got
yes.
it.
To occur on the site.
Okay.
And then following that, we would do the wastewater treatment plant improvements, these intermediate improvements, and utilize some of that land already. And then in the future, they probably will get, let's say, a 10-year window. And my information from people who should be in a position to know is they're not going to start at the rest of the project anytime soon. They're really going to, partly out of respect for us too, because we don't want all that development happening at one time and straining the intermediate fix for our wastewater treatment plant.
Sure.
So our hope is that development occurs after the new plant would be in place after 2027.
Oh, interesting.
But, you know, it's up to the Planning Commission to give them an entitlement right and put a time frame around that. But we, the town, have been sort of actively watching this conversation. Town officials, including myself, have attended all 3 of these Planning Commission meetings, or of the 2 that have occurred specifically about this recently, the April and the May meetings, and then there'll be another meeting in June 12th.
Okay.
So for people who are interested, the room is generally pretty full.
Good.
So this is gathering the interest it deserves.
Yeah.
And there are obviously people who are sensitive to, they don't want development at all. Or there are neighbors, like the Last Dollar subdivision, that have been very vocal about, well, they would look down on that, literally.
Yeah.
And so they're concerned about whatever is going to happen there. And then the town would like to see, first of all, you know, obviously the affordable housing equation in play, which it will be, as well as, you know, we don't want something really horrific and giant and grossly disproportionate happening right at the entrance to town.
Yeah, sure.
So we've kind of we are a stakeholder in the process. We are planning to provide water and sewer services to them without annexing this parcel. But at the same time, we are curious about the proposed uses, and we just want to make sure that those uses are consistent with consumption and discharge that we can handle in terms of water and wastewater.
Because the thinking is that it will increase the density of human beings pooping in the region?
Well, if you have another large commercial activity over
If you
there.
build it, they will come, is that what we're thinking?
Well, that has been an argument that's been advanced about the hotel component. This consultant study, which is part of the packet, they have basically said, look, just addressing the current demand within San Miguel County and assuming only a 1% increase in population over the next 20 years, they basically calculated that this commercial space would be fully absorbed with the existing demand that's not being met. Because I
okay.
think we can all point to, there aren't any office spaces left on Main Street, for
Right.
example. Or if you're going to start a new business, where are you going to do that?
Right.
So this, hopefully will be an appropriately scaled engine for activity that meets some demand as well.
Yeah,
So-
it'd be interesting to see where that leads.
But June 12th for that meeting.
Okay, good.
And that's kind
Yeah.
of it. I mean, there's really just
Yeah, some
not
questions
a
from the
lot.
community. Driving up here, and I know it's not in town property, but maybe you have an answer for us anyhow, because you're a smart guy. There's all this road there's all this kind of forest clearing to the south of the road as you're driving up
Are
from
you talking about the
Placerville.
large pile of dirt? Oh, that.
Yeah, no, it's,
That's
yeah.
a CDOT thing further down Valley?
Yeah, I guess they're making a passing lane, but then are they also laying fiber? Is that the cable, or is that gas, or is that way out of your range and so you don't know what it is?
I don't know what
Yeah,
it is.
it's quite a big construction. Do you know anything about the?
I think you're correct, though. I think it's a passing lane, but I
yeah.
wasn't aware that they were doing any utility.
I think that there's some utilities being laid there as well. Do you know anything about the new, is it broadband, whatever's coming here that's going to be faster, super-powered internet connection? Is that happening?
We, the town, aren't involved in that.
Okay.
There has been, so if what I think you're referring to is, in the last couple of years, the Department of Local Affairs gave the county a really generous grant. So we've now taken from the Sunshine Campground area, we've laid fiber from there all the way to the school. And then I think they brought it to the library as well.
Oh, okay.
But in terms of like full commercialization of that, I don't think that's happening
That's
quite
not
yet.
available yet.
But we, the town, every time we're digging up an alley or a homeowner is like excavating the street, let's say, we have a requirement that they put a conduit sleeve in for us to
terrific.
one day
Yeah, be
connect
able to feed
through.
that fabulous
So
cable.
those efforts have been underway and are currently still working their way through
Yes.
sort of to completion, but we won't have an entire network set up yet. Because we don't have the will or the resources to tear up every street to
Yeah.
get that done in every alley. But when we do, we are installing conduit sleeve. And we already did that all the way down Mahoney Drive when we did the sewer
Oh, sure.
fixes of the last few
Yeah.
years. And a portion, I think the last block of Main Street may have it too. But we have a bit more of the jigsaw puzzle to put together.
Yeah, lots of little pieces.
But
do like a
good
jigsaw
question.
puzzle. Yeah, yeah. And then another, basically, kind of thought for the town. We've heard recently that there was maybe going to be a Tesla supercharger going in with the county at the Intercept parking lot out at the Society Turn, and that's not happening now. 2 of the 3 county commissioners voted against it. And I wonder, is there any kind of like town thought of maybe trying to find some kind of electric supercharging anywhere on any of the town properties?
Well, I know, for example, at the new, the SMPA mixed-use project, or the AHA School will occupy a portion of it, and we'll have the
And that's
underground
really coming
parking.
up. And I think they're
We
paving
paved
the
the
street
street
now.
yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
I
go
saw
over
new
there,
tar.
look at it, and what an improvement. So
Yeah, it was pretty muddy this spring.
it's pretty amazing, though, to do what we did.
Yeah.
Because we
It was
started
a huge
that project,
gaping hole.
I think 1 year ago in April. Yeah, it was
It's-
April of 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wow, we've made a lot of progress. But we will have a couple city chargers inside that garage, but I think now that the county has taken this position, this is a time for the town to reflect and to probably, I'll be putting this into the manager's
Yeah.
inbox and seeing where we might be able to accommodate that.
Yeah.
And do you know, does Tesla, I had heard things like Tesla wants to give it these
Yeah,
chargers to.
they take care of the electricity and the building of it and all of that. If they have to dig up your tar to install it, then they do that, and then they fix it again, you know. So they do all of that. And it's just providing a service for the Tesla owners, many of whom then get to charge there for free, some of whom have to pay depending on what the contract is with the
Okay.
car that you have. Yeah. So Tesla handles all the details.
Okay, it's definitely worth looking into. We don't have any current plan for it. We assumed that probably would happen out there, which I guess it's not going to. And in our own sort of plans, we did contemplate putting smaller universal chargers into the garage.
Yeah,
But,
that's a good idea.
There may be another appropriate location in town that we should consider for
Yeah.
that.
How far away is the Ajax Hotel property from being developed? I know it's just changed hands. When
My
that
understanding
happened, was
is-
there a kind of, we're going to break ground at such and such a date?
They would like to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, so they were planning on initially trying to submit to HARC for, so what they're doing is, they're keeping the P&Z approval. I think there's a minor amendment that's required for that, but they're keeping the P&Z approval. But what they're taking, the plans that have been approved by HARC, they're scrapping all of that.
Wow.
So they're going to start over with HARC
That'll take a
and
while.
with the community. So I would assume that that'll be
Maybe a next year project.
a next year project, but you know, they are going to come to us. My understanding is they're going to submit something to the town, to Jonna Wenzel, who's our preservation expert, and who handles all the HARC packets from the staff point of view. My expectation is they're going to submit something in May for the June meeting, and then they'll be on the HARC schedule for a work session in June.
Okay, that'll
And
be an
so-
interesting time. That's always fun to kind of pay
And then
attention to
following
what big
that work
plans are.
session, I would imagine there'd probably be 2 or 3 more meetings at least. You know, the interesting part of this, and I've had a small peek at what the concept would be like. These people are very sophisticated developers, and they have actually approached town and said, hey, we want to understand the rules before we go proposing anything.
Right.
And so they've spent a lot of time talking to our internal planning staff
Oh, neat.
about what the parameters are and what is possible, so that we don't get into this silly,
Yeah,
you
your
know,
roofs are 2 feet too
giant-
high. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
You're 2 feet too close to the sidewalk.
So
Whatever
my
it is.
sense is they're not going to be asking for the moon like many other developers do. I think they're going to come in fully within, you know, with a compliant project that HARC could approve, and then it'll be about the aesthetic, so
Right.
that they don't have to basically push back on, you know, very questionable overreaching on the part of a developer. So in this case, I think you'll see something very different, and the end goal, I've been told, is to have something along the lines of a Little Nell type hotel, an independent hotel, so it won't be flagged or you know, part of a chain, and it'll be a pretty high-end luxury spot. I think with about 8 to 10 condos, and then so less condos than the other project had. Square footage of the hotel, that's not negotiable. They have to provide 50 rooms, and they have to provide 5 affordable housing units on site.
Ah, good. Okay,
So,
5 affordable housing units.
The rules of the road, you know, won't change. It'll just be what
How the configuration is.
exactly. And so
That'll be
stay
interesting
tuned.
to
But I
see.
think, to your point, I think you'll see them go through the planning phase this year, and then, you know, if they're super lucky, they might be able to start construction in the fall. But you know, that's anybody's guess. HARC is such a black box.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
if,
Yeah, I
if
hear
you go
there
in
was
respecting the rules, you'll get
yeah.
a better result.
I hear there was, maybe it was a work session with HARC, there was a group that I'm kind of part of that had a proposal to put solar panels on a roof over the, or individual roofs or something like that, over the parking lot here at the high school. And so they were, the high school parking lot right now is just a tar lot with lines. And they were going to put roofs on it and solar on those roofs and provide, I think, 100% of the power for the school.
In the front of the school?
In the front of the
Okay,
school, but
okay.
they were denied because there's some HARC line that says that that's not acceptable. So they're looking into putting it on the roof. The problem being the new roof has a warranty that they don't want to void. There is part of the roof that's old that they might be able to put it on.
Yeah.
But I just thought, what a great statement for Telluride to be driving into town and see solar as the first thing you see on the left when you come in from out of town.
Well, and then there's also a proposal to put some solar on the hillside above the cemetery, that the town owns that land.
Oh, interesting.
And so Michael Ward and some of the neighbors who live in the Primrose subdivision over there,
Yeah.
They've come up with the idea a couple times of putting in a solar array there. So that would be, maybe we could get it at both ends of town.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, let's keep
And
fighting the good
actually,
fight.
speaking of solar,
Because we want to keep our winters, you know what I'm saying?
SMPA has had some recent developments. We just heard about this at the meeting yesterday, as well as 2 weeks ago, from their representative, Mr. Zaporsky, yesterday, and their attorney, Mr. Link, 2 weeks ago, that Tri-State, so the cooperative that SMPA is a member of, I think there are 16
Where we in Telluride get our
members.
power,
Yes, San Miguel Power Association. That's our local cooperative. Then they have a power purchase arrangement with Tri-State that's all requirements, so all required power except 5% that we can generate on our own. Well, Tri-State, hats off to them, just amended their bylaws last month, I think it was, like in April, and that allows for different classes of membership. And apparently they're going to allow members who have all requirements contracts like SMPA to potentially reclassify themselves as a partial requirement member.
So we
And
could get
that
more
we
clean
might be
power
able to get
from
more
solar
clean power.
arrays.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my understanding is Tri-State has a new CEO, and this person is a lot more friendly to renewables than the old person was.
As everyone
so
should
that's
be.
good. And I would be remiss, because I forgot to mention this at the top of the interview, we now have daily jet service to Denver.
Yes,
And
let's
so
talk about that.
The Denver Air
Exactly.
Connection landed, so this is May 15th is the first date of the service. I was there for the inaugural landing of the service.
Did it make a
One of the-
screaming roar like jet engines do?
It was perfectly calm and peaceful.
neat.
So, and what was so impressive to me, the pilot is actually one of the 3 owners of the company.
Oh, wow.
And so,
Was that just for inaugural day, or is he going to be making
he
the
said that he and his 2 other fellow owners, they fly all the time.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
they basically have a charter type operation out of Denver. They do have regular service to a handful of western cities.
Yeah.
And so, but they will, with the exception of a 4-week period right after the ski resort closes, and approximately 4 weeks in our fall sort of season, like mid-October to mid-November, we will have daily service from the
Wow,
from
and
the
it's
Denver Air
30,
Connection.
30 seats, right?
It's 30 seats.
So by daily, is it, does it come in once and then leave again once? Or?
I think that's it, yeah. Whereas Boutique does it twice
Yeah,
a day.
exactly.
I think Denver Air Connection would just be once a day.
Once a day. And do you happen to know, will they code share with United
They do code
or
share with
American?
United,
Oh,
yes. So
yeah?
if you go to United and try to book your trip this way, they fly out of Terminal A at DIA. And so, and the owner / pilot today was explaining to me, he said, well, a lot of those were most of the international flights come in. So they're hoping that this actually helps connect foreign visitors to Telluride as well.
Wow,
since they'll be
interesting.
within that same
Yeah,
terminal.
yeah.
But jet service is a huge advancement for our aviation infrastructure here,
Yes.
and we've certainly, having another option and a much greater capacity in terms of passengers and gear, which has been an issue with Boutique, we'll just say that nicely, that people can't bring their snowboards, for example,
Yeah.
on the same aircraft with them,
Right,
which
no
is
space.
a problem.
Yeah.
So having this service and this capacity for cargo and for people is a huge game changer, I think,
Oh
for
my
Telluride.
goodness, that's so exciting.
It'll make a lot of our lives easier.
Yeah. So what are you excited about the rest of May?
Gosh.
Hopping on the jet, flying somewhere, sticking around.
I
had a-
declined that offer.
Yeah, you
But,
had to stick around. Speaking of sticking around, I walked by Rooster Go last night. I had their $25 Tuesday menu. It was amazing.
Every Tuesday and Thursday,
I
right?
know,
Yeah.
fabulous. I might go tomorrow. It was great.
Okay, we should go
Yeah,
together.
yeah, I'd love that.
All right, perfect.
Where did I see you? Not there. Oh, I saw you at the Last Dollar Saloon. Yeah, because you want to know what? When you're on Main Street and it's off season, you end up seeing a lot of your favorite people.
Exactly. No, I just ran into Susie Coit, for example, the other day on Pacific, and she's got a place there. She lives in Boulder and here. And she's like, I haven't been here in Telluride at this time of the year for a long time.
You end up
and I'm
seeing
like,
a lot
see,
of
isn't
good
this
people.
great? And you see
Yeah.
all the real, all the good locals.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Well, we'll leave it at that. Get outside and go see your friends.
All right. Thanks as always,
Thanks,
Sarah.
Sean.
It's a
That was
pleasure.
fun.